Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucci, joined, as always, by the boy.
Hey.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and tonight we are talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
I'm not going to do it.
Good.
Satan's game.
Oh.
Damn it, I tried.
For a decade of practice and training, all for nothing. We are speaking, you can read the fucking title, but like, this is like a formal way to introduce this shit. I can just open up the podcast and be like, I like Warforged.
Why not?
Because, I don't know, I have to put forth effort. Anyway.
Seems like a mistake, but okay.
Yeah. As two people who don't really give a shit about Eberron.
Not really, no.
I mean, it's fine, but it's not really our setting. We're going to talk about some Eberron races.
Yeah, that we appropriated for use in non-Eberron settings. Where some might say they thematically don't fit too well. And to those people, I say, I don't care.
I mean, it's down to you. Like, 110% what does or does not fit into your world, right? Like, we had this, we as the collective D&D playing community, had this conversation back in 2nd and more actively 3rd edition, where your monks aren't allowed in my Western RPG setting.
If I want to play Friar Tuck and beat a bitch down, I should be allowed to.
I don't know if it's nice to troll the audience.
What?
It's going to be that kind of podcast, folks. I've lost all train of thought. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Warforged and Changelings.
Yes. So, Warforged, for the uninitiated, are D&D robots.
I was really hoping that you weren't going to overcomplicate that any more than that. Because if you tried, I would have had to interrupt you mid-sentence and go, they're robots.
He's in a mood, kids. Sorry, I didn't mean to say the K word on this podcast. Anyway, they're like made of magic and wood, and you get pinged by people thinking you're making videos for younglings if you say certain words or have them in your descriptions.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? The algorithm's fucking stupid and worse than ever right now anyway, and we don't make money off of this. If you think we make money off of this, if you think we deserve to make money off of this, there's a Patreon linked in the section below. And if the last 3 minutes have not been the engaging pile of shit we usually dish out every week, then encourage us to do better by giving money to the Patreon. Or buying my books.
God.
That works too.
Oh, the joke I want to make here, one, wouldn't make sense to the listeners we have, and two, is, like, I wouldn't like making it, so I'm just going to move on.
He's in a mood, like I said. Yeah, so you can obviously understand why someone would be kind of frustrated with having their setting, and here comes somebody who wants to play a robot. Because let's be real, most of us out there, ourselves included, are not going, no, I really want to play like this golem character who is made of magic and natural materials. Y'all want to make the robot voice and do the beep boop and talk about the meat bags.
Yes.
And that's fine.
We have both, you only for one session as I understand it, a game I wasn't involved in, but you've played a Warforged, I've played a Warforged, and we both DM'd for them over the course of at least one mid-length to long campaign. So we have some stuff to actually say about them.
Yes.
What is it? No, what do you like about them?
I like a lot about them. I think they're really unique. I like races that offer you both the DM and the person playing a way to carve out a unique presence within the world. And this is... It gives us those obviously manufactured characters. You know, I mean, you can take any number of stereotypes or interpretations from usually sci-fi fiction, science fiction, or fiction from the Sci-Fi Network.
I choose that one because then you didn't do an ATM machine.
Man, that's just how most people say it anymore. Anyway, I say they change what the M means. Automatic Teller Master Machine.
Yes!
Which is a great idea for your Warforged character.
Your balance is negative. Recompense will be required. And then you drain their blood.
Yeah, sure.
Your balance is negative. Oh, negative.
Now who's hard to kill? I just think that's neat. I mean, we've both done some different interpretations. I haven't done as much work with Warforged in a greater D&D setting as I'd like. The one I ran I DM'd for Warforged in was sort of its own little pocket setting.
Yeah, it was. You were trying out a thing, and I really, really, really specifically really wanted to play blues from the Mega's concept albums about Mega Man. Not just Proto Man, I wanted to play blues. And so I did. And he was great, and he was fun.
The Warforged I had to be blues. There were only a few of them, and they were basically the result of fine dwarven craftsmanship.
Straight from Orzammar.
Whereas in your game, in your larger world, you ran them as more of a creation of the precursors, to put it really simply.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's essentially all you really need to say. Is... Actually, I can succinct it for folks who are into more literary stuff. One of the most prominent Warforged I had in the setting was Andy the Messenger Robot from the Dark Tower series. It's about like that. They're a servitor race that helped out the much more advanced race that a cataclysm destroyed. And the few remaining ones were either dickheads or one of the player characters.
Either way, they haven't been like a massive race, which I think would also be an interesting interpretation. Which I believe Eberron, the newest version of Eberron, kind of handles. It's, okay, we had a war. We made,
We forged the Warforged for war.
Now the war's over. What do the Warforged do?
Who watches the Watchman who wars the Warforged? But, yeah, it's what is this whole race of people's purpose without the battle they were created to fight? That is a very interesting and fertile ground for, like, character stuff, if you wanted to make them an actual race. The problem is, there's only so many slots for Proud Warrior Race Guy, and my settings all filled up.
I don't know, man. I think there's a difference between Proud Warrior Race Guy and, like, Solid Snake and his Funtime Friends. Because that's the echoing theme throughout the Metal Gear series is, who are we if there is no war? We are but soldiers.
Now if someone presented me that, that interpretation of Warforged or a race trying to find meaning in the absence of the peace, or in the peace following a great war, I would 1000% play David.
Like David as Pumpkins?
All right, look, listener, I'm not going to lie. He had a little extra time to think of that amazing joke.
No, it came to me immediately, and then we were...
Delayed slightly. Moving on.
Just like all of my actual edits, you have no idea they were there.
But, like, one, great joke. Two, yes. Three, Solid Snake.
What's a man to do without a war? And these two smaller golems you have? Part of it! Oh, God, that joke will stop being funny someday. And...
No, it won't.
So, all right. Warforged, we obviously think they're cool. What do you not like about Warforged? I have a feeling I know what you're about to say.
I don't think you do.
Okay.
I don't like that there are 9 versions of them.
That's exactly what I thought you were about to say.
Really?
Yes. You bring it up every time someone breathes the word Warforged.
It's just like, I don't like that there are 9 versions of them, but more so, I don't like that the version that is the final version, it's not my least favorite, but I do have one I like a lot more.
Generally, I feel like the middle version is overtuned. It's a little stronger than it needs to be.
I don't disagree, but it's also the coolest version. And I feel like you could have tuned it down without taking away some of the cool options it had.
I think that's entirely possible. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, the cool options it had aren't that powerful. Then again, we're playing in a hobby where people look at the spell Healing Word and shit their pants regularly, so...
1 to 5, it is very powerful.
Sure.
Past that, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I'm currently playing a level 19 Divine Soul Sorcerer in a game I'm in, and I haven't cast the spell Healing Word in at least 8 levels. I don't cast it often. I have not cast it in 8 levels.
Well, and you've got better spells, and that's healing. Y'all might as well be mad at the concept of a healer. Did you completely heal up a burnt and beaten down party in one action?
Yes!
Yes! Does that mean that you cheated or the spell's not fair?
To be fair, that one's a 9th level spell. I feel like those are allowed to be
That's fine. It doesn't... the numbers went up. You're not trying to kill your fucking party. Anyway.
Listen, Morello.
So we've actually kind of talked about how we use Warforged in our worlds as well. I don't really have a current place for Warforged in my world, but they would be pretty similar. They would be crafted. I think they would be more present. I think they would be...
a thing rather than relics of a bygone age.
Yeah, just because I kind of like that. I like that conflict in the world. I would like someone to meet a Warforged character and go, this guy is fully aware that someone made him a few days ago, and he lives, he acts.
He's a grown up.
Yeah, that's just interesting.
There's 2 options. I would either do what I'm doing now, which is have them be relics of a bygone age, lost to time and cataclysm, or I would have them be very, very young, like maybe veterans of a most recent war, or I would use them as a very new race that a empire is building in the run-up to maybe a war that people don't know is going to happen yet.
Yeah. Marvel, the mechanical man. Look at the things he can do. He's useful around the household and can be sent on errands and do things for you. Please ignore the gun in his chest.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty cool idea. You could run some really interesting characters with that, too.
I would, the idea I had for this, I actually had this idea a while ago. I'm not this creative off the fly. The idea I would go for is use them like clone troopers in the Clone Wars, in the Clone Wars series. Just very mission-oriented, very young, maybe somewhat naive, but very honorable race. Also, they would have some command lines in their brains that could be used to execute order, certain numbers of orders. Good. Sheaf. But I would legitimately do that, because the series, both the comics and, as I understand it, the sequels to the Clone Wars series, have done really cool things with the psychological, toll that's taken on the clone troopers being party to Order 66. And having control chips in their brains that made them do it. They've taken that some very interesting places, and I'd like to explore that.
Sure. I think it's fertile ground. So I'm starting a new campaign, which I am, but you already have your character. But you have to play a Warforged now.
Okay.
How do you roll this character?
It entirely depends on how Warforged work in your world.
Well, let's operate under what I just said. They're just sort of a thing that wizards do sometimes, irresponsible creatures they are.
They are the wizard shotgun, but with legs?
Yes.
Well, I've already played blues, which is how my instincts are to play that.
Right. I feel like that requires a whole storyline setup, though, because some character concepts are very intrinsically tied to, the narrative around them.
Yeah, blues isn't blues without rock and the good doctor. But I would probably play someone... My instinct isn't to play the You're Not My Real Dad rebel. My instinct is to play an unsure anime protagonist, like Midoriya from My Hero Academia. Someone who doesn't believe they really deserve what they have. I was made with all this power and to be a creature of war, but I'm not sure that I'm good enough for it, and desiring to prove themselves being worth all that investment.
Sure. Wow, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of influence that could go into that from various characters in fiction. You could have a lot of moods through that. There's a lot of development a character like that could go through.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Is I've played 19 levels of a 2-dimensional, money-hungry merchant. Look, it was an accident. But I kind of want to play stuff with a little bit more room for my elbows to move, as it were.
No, I feel it.
I love Nicholas, but I'm stretching the bounds of what is believable for his character.
He's basically got 2 settings: happy money, throwing a tantrum.
Yes, happy money, throwing a tantrum, and they are entirely based around whether or not he's being currently inconvenienced from getting happy money. And and that is me like really pushing at the edges. So I'm very much into the idea of characters with a little bit more elbow room for me to explore right now. I'll reverse that. I am demanding that in my next D&D campaign, instead of any of the other many cool characters I want you to play, you got to play a Warforged. What are you playing?
Well, I had an idea previously, but I would be asking a lot of you as a DM doing so, and that would make me feel uncomfortable. Only because you have recently done this. I had this concept, ironically, I believe, at the beginning of the campaign where the other character played this, for a Warforged who does not know where they came from.
I think I did a good job with that.
And I think you did too. And I think
have to ask the player.
I would have been pretty satisfied with how that story has gone so far. But mine is going to be a much more upbeat and less secretly sinister. But
less like less Am I a Cylon, more Johnny the Tackling Alzheimer's patient.
Said a lot of stuff to me just now.
If there's one listener who gets that reference, you're a prince.
I kind of get the second one, but the first one is I don't really know what you're talking about. But sure, yeah. Man, this has been a series, listener. I hope if you stan our robot friend like some people do, you're getting some mileage out of him roosing me every 3 minutes. Soft reboot of my brain. Oh, I had that David S. Pumpkins line though.
That was good. That was good.
I'm swinging. So no, I wouldn't want to do that. The last time, the one Warforged I played was just a guy who happened to be a Warforged, and I think that might be interesting. It depends on the Warforged as far as they go in that setting. If it is as your current setting, and they are a precursor race, of servitors. Javik.
Yes! Yes, that's such a good version of that.
Yeah, someone who remembers the old ways and everything they did, and they were a total hard-ass, like, bodyguard robot or assassin or something, and
gets to do the thing, they used to lick their eyes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I finally figured out writing.
Javik is one of my favorite characters in Mass Effect, and
that makes me want to play Mass Effect 3 again just for Javik.
God, I wish I could just...
He's a prince.
There's a lot that goes on in that game, though. So let's move on to the other Eberron race we're going to discuss today, and that is Changelings.
Yeah.
They are also another race that is frequently banned from tables because of their ability to shapeshift.
Yeah, because they're broken. That's not healing word style, alarmism. No, they're broken. They're OP.
I think there are ways to get around it, and I think that...
But you have to get around it.
Sure.
You have to play around it. You have to... One character warps the rest of the party because you have to play around them.
I would agree. But I don't
give a shit because I make my player characters broken anyway, so who cares?
I think it's no more damning than flight at first level.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little worse.
It depends on what your campaign is going for.
Having DM'd a changeling who made the most effective and Dick Healy use of that ability, I DM'd a changeling assassin, you may remember. No, it's exactly as much of a pain in the ass. I helped
out by failing basically all of my skill checks, though.
You did. The other thing is you stop fighting it. is how you fix that.
Yeah.
You play into it. You turn into the skid. Like so many things in life, it's just more enjoyable if you go with the flow. If you have a changeling in the party who likes to change their face and trick people and use that to their advantage, good! Use it! It's story fodder. Why are you mad? Yeah, it's broken, but who cares?
I built a dungeon, borrowed a dungeon, and changed some interior stuff. For my session yesterday, as of this recording, much of which that was going to be kind of confusing and mazy was circumvented by flight.
My character can fly because he's above level 14 and he's a Divine Soul Sorcerer.
And I noticed this, and I thought, well, we could fix this by making everything walls. I, in fact, had, for certain sections of it, made a semi-invisible glass-like magic barrier.
As opposed to a big gap, which would have been literally no inconvenience to me.
Well, the reason the glass-like magic barrier existed was because there were certain parts of the map that were, this is just high up, and you're in a SNES RPG, so you can't get up there. Instead, I just put the barrier there to keep logic. But there was a whole underground area, and a couple of areas later that if you could fly, well, it's fine. Who cares? But I just let it happen. Because, I don't know when we're going to be in a situation, turns out later that session, where flight was going to be super useful, and I wanted to give my player character a chance to shine and enjoy something they'd been really looking forward to. 2, my fucking dungeon is not so precious that it needs to be experienced exactly as intended. Because I also didn't think about how one of my other characters, who has had an ability they've had since their origin...
That one's much more successful because I've gotten to use my flight to my advantage a lot. I make sure to use it in combat. I make sure to take advantage of the three-dimensionality of the space to act as like an off-tank because I can heal myself and get the enemies to come look at me instead of all the squishy people who I have to spend spell slots to heal. But I feel like the other character, there's So Water Genasi?
Yep.
Water Genasi Barbarian, who has, for the entire length of the campaign, always been looking for some use for shape water.
Yeah.
Just some use for it.
And we've allowed some edge cases where a ship was sinking and he forced the water out of it, or...
That's not an edge case, that's just how that works.
Sure, yeah. When I mean, like some small gimmies.
I've seen you set up situations where it's useful in the past, but it's been a very obvious. This is the time that this character, that Matcha can be cool and use his shape water, but the player will always be looking for other. Has always been looking for other. Will occasionally ask, "Can I use my water stuff on this? Will that help?" And so often the answer is no. But in this one case. It was clear that it wasn't something that was set up. It was her actually looking and going, wait a minute, I can just freeze the water and we can, instead of having to go around this huge maze, we can just walk over this lake. Oh yeah, I guess you could, huh? Well, that's the end of that part of the dungeon. Yeah!
I mean, I could have, as a DM, looked up something and been like, no, the salinity is too high, or some nonsense like that. But no, it was going to excite my player character, so let's play into it. Yes, you can freeze the water. You guys walk through. I pretend to be a little saltier than I was. Mostly I was proud and flabbergasted.
You got that across well. It's that it was inconvenient, like a changeling's alter self.
Exactly.
It wasn't convenient. It wasn't in your plans. It wasn't your precious, plan. Like you said, your dungeon wasn't going to be experienced as it was intended. But you turned into the skid and the session was made better thereby.
Yeah, and the player got to celebrate, and that's what it's all about. So, if you're the kind of person who goes, no changelings at my table, please leave a comment in the comment section and explain why.
Give us a dislike, because the algorithm can't tell the difference between those and likes, so do whatever you want.
Feel free to use the Zalgo text, because I clearly applied it to the voice filter I just created there.
Or the up and down SpongeBob mocking text.
Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah.
But
also consider, just running a campaign to suit what your players want. I like it when a campaign is hard, but there's that line between hard and adversarial that is just not a good idea to cross.
Unless you have a group that wants it.
Yeah, I mean that's
there are groups who, provided the DM follows the rules, want a DM to be trying to kill them.
Yeah. Which
is, of course, what they mean is that they want a DM to give them a hard thing to murder. Because they don't want a DM to actually be trying to kill them. Because if he was, he would.
Yeah. All right, you guys, level 1 characters have just started. You all meet in an open field, and there are 5 adult green dragons.
Best of luck, dickhead. You wanted this? Yeah, no. That's they mean they want Dark Souls, not someone who's actually trying to kill them.
Exactly.
Dark Souls isn't trying to kill you. Dark Souls has just made a situation in which you're likely to die.
And is not being terribly helpful about it.
That's what they want. And that's fine, but
Sure.
that's not anyone I've ever... I think I've played with one person on a regular basis who was ever that guy. Since I was a teenager. And, I mean, like, it's just not my bag. But we're getting sort of a field of changelings in specific. We talked a lot about how their one big ability, the changeling thing, is a little broken, and it is. But what do you like about changelings? What moves you to play and use them in your world?
So, ironically, I actually don't really care much about their changeling ability. I mean, I found a character concept to build around it, the obvious one.
Yeah.
But I really like how they look when they're not shapeshifting.
Yeah, if you want that, but without the ability, Core is another race that looks exactly the fucking same.
They're similar.
Exactly the fucking same, and aren't changelings. In my setting, actually, changelings are a type of core who spent too much time around chaos magic and started to morph. That only got found out way late in the setting, in the campaign. But yeah,
It's very organically done to pat you on the back further during this podcast.
I mean, look, I'll take all the back pats I can get. It's rough out there.
What about you? What do you like about changeling?
I like their changeling ability. I do. I find it interesting. I like how they look. But more so, I like the idea of them. I like the idea of this race, an entire race of people who have a natural ability to decide what they look like.
Yeah.
Just whatever the fuck they want any day of the week. What does that mean? How does that society build up? I think I did like an okay version of it. I could have done it a lot better. And I'm saying that about the changelings because I use them as a race in my setting.
Right.
Like they're somewhat isolated, but they are a whole ass race who is actually very important to the plot. But that's where I wanted to break down and explain what exactly they are, but no, it's fine.
Super not necessary.
But I like the idea of that, of essentially, not to get too political on the podcast, an entire race of non-binary people.
Sure.
Just a whole ass race of them who just get to decide on any given day what they want to look like, who they want to be, and what does that mean? How does that race develop? I could have done a better job. I feel that personally, but I love that as an idea.
Well, as a DM, when you're trying to portray a complex concept like that, no matter what your reasoning for it is, if you're just trying to be beholden to, well, these are all bird people and they all have cloaca, so certain things are not going to be taboo for them.
Yep.
Or whatever have you. You know, these people grew up on the steppes, whereas these people grew up in the tundra. They're going to be different.
But you have to do that in the middle of also having a cool, fun adventure story for the players to have. You got to cut some corners.
And you're also going to have to, you're building your characters. You're selling your players' characters more than you're selling your own characters.
And that's essentially what happened is
Sure.
I could have done better. I feel like if I had been given a changeling NPC or a changeling PC who didn't hate other changelings and want to kill them for biting his gimmick, I feel like I could have done more because I would have had the screen time to do it. But I love the idea.
I could go deeper into that, but for the same reason as you're not going deeper into your race, I won't. If you guys care for me to do so, I'll explain it in the comments. So, is there something you hate about the changeling?
Not really.
I didn't like a lot of the ancillary alternate personality abilities, kind of like the charlatan, that were in the same build as the version of Warforged you prefer. But they fixed that with the more recent one, so whatever.
Yeah, same. If I was thinking of that, I probably would have said the same thing, but I just think of the most recent version because it's the last stat block I looked up.
Well, you explained also how you use them in your world. I haven't really.
No, you haven't given call
you
to.
know of. No, I haven't. There hasn't been.
They're not really they're not obviously something you would be drawn to make as a race for use in a D&D setting. They don't have an established enough niche that you can either bend to your preferences or just like how it is enough. So that doesn't surprise me. I feel like it would be a lot easier for you to have done so if you had a player character who was one.
And that's exactly what I was about to say, is that I would, certainly.
Yeah.
I can come up with a bunch of different neat lore off the top of my head. They're an isolated race who lives deep within the woods where the connection to the Feywild is thinner, and they are of that energy. There's off the top of my head example.
Look, all DMs do it. Do you think core would be in my fucking setting if one of the player characters wasn't a core?
Sure, yeah.
No, they would not.
Final question of this wild podcast. How would you play a changeling, my friend?
For having DM'd one and put them in my setting, I have never played one.
No.
I would... that is actually a very interesting question.
Well, and as popular as Warforged are, I don't think if we both hadn't had as much interactions with changelings over the last years we've had, we wouldn't be talking about them here. We'd be talking about shifters, probably.
Yeah, probably, because that's another big Eberron race that we've also used, and I've played one I actually really like, but we've both used a lot of changeling stuff. Mm-hmm. Shifters maybe will be on a future podcast.
Oh, they definitely will.
But I honestly don't know. I don't think I would play like a changeling assassin. I would play someone with like a very specific sense of self. But I honestly don't know. Maybe my off the top of my head is like a V from Order of the Stick type.
Sure.
Or I guess if you want to go to more mean examples of the same trope, Pat from Saturday Night Live. Just someone who defies...
Please never play Pat from Saturday Night Live.
I wouldn't do the voice.
Or the actions.
No. But I would play someone who does change their appearance a lot, but defies categorization in a real way. That would be fun, I think.
I think... since I've already played the leading into the skid, I would go the opposite direction. Someone who either doesn't use their shape-shifting at all, and just kind of hangs out as a changeling and is like, yeah, it's a thing I can do, but why?
I can do that. You can climb a tree. Are you constantly climbing trees? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps even to the extent that they don't immediately think of it as, how do we infiltrate this place? Gosh, that's a good question. Well, she's very sneaky. Maybe she could get in.
And there's like a beat, and everyone's looking at him, and then he goes...
You smudge his face, it's got peanut butter on there?
And then there's like another beat, and he goes, oh, right.
I don't like feeling pigeonholed.
I feel like you're really backing me into a corner here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
don't know that I'll play one again in the future, though. I mean, I'd almost always pick a different race that's got something better to complement what I'm trying to accomplish.
That's the thing is, I wouldn't necessarily want to use them for the biggest mechanical overlap they have. I guess you have to stay medium-sized, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. If D&D was a different game, there's a lot of other concepts I would play, but they would rely on the shape-shifting being able to change my dimensions in a much greater way. Because I like the idea of like a warrior who is a master of many different weapons and changes their form to best fit the kind of person who would be fighting with that weapon so that they can use it most effectively.
Yeah, more of like a fluff thing.
Yeah. But like, that's not, in D&D, that's just, you don't use many weapons. You just don't end up doing that.
You don't have to, no.
So it's a useless sort of thing, you know?
I think you could play a character who does that, though, who collects, like, magic weapons of various different types, and all of the magic weapons have their own unique things, like a fire sword and a lightning staff. That would be a useful reason to have to switch your weapons up. So talk with your DM beforehand, and you could lead into that skid. And just being a medium-sized creature, I mean, let's be fair, everything from a dwarf
to a Goliath.
Well, to a Goliath, to a fucking elephant person, the Loxodon, is a medium-sized creature. A wolf is a medium-sized creature. I mean, you have to be bipedal, but, that's a lot of shapes going there.
And that's what I thought of. That'd be a cool idea, but
I think that's neat.
It's not mechanically very useful, and I would feel it would cross the line into I've spent too much time describing what my character's doing.
There's a sweet spot. Much like being a difficult DM and an adversarial one, there's a
sweet spot, and it would cross the line for me.
That's fair enough.
That's a personal thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair enough. Well, next week you guys get to listen to our dulcet tones, finishing up my sleep-deprived analysis of epic rap battles of history.
And me inoculating myself, I still love the series, but of ever wanting to talk about it ever again.
So I hope you guys enjoy that next week. We are going to enjoy the time off, or maybe record some backup podcasts, because that's fun. Either way, thank you for listening.
Everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Fuck it.